Hi everybody and welcome back to Lost Genre Reddit Stories. This post is from the subreddit True Off My Chest and it's by user Evie Stevie. My mother-in-law cut my hair in my sleep because she thought I cheated on my husband. So I'm still processing this, but I need to get it off my chest. Last night I woke up and realized someone had butchered my hair. One side is a jagged pixie cut and the other side hangs awkwardly past my shoulder. At first I thought I was losing my mind, maybe I sleepwalked or something. But no, I confronted my husband, Tim, because he's been acting weird lately, but he denied it. Then he drops this bombshell. My mom, she might have done it. Apparently, my mother-in-law, let's call her Diane, is convinced I've been cheating on Tim. Why would she think this? Because last week she saw me having lunch with a coworker. For the record, the coworker, Kyle, is gay, and we were literally talking about work. But Diane decided I must be having an affair, and instead of, talking to me or Tim, she broke into our house in the middle of the night with scissors and went full-on Edward Scissorhands on my hair. This morning, I confronted her. At first, she played innocent, but when I pressed her, she literally said, "Well, maybe now you'll think twice before humiliating my son." I was fuming. I told her Kyle isn't even into women, but she just rolled her eyes and said something like, "That's what they all say." I didn't even know how to respond to that level of delusion. Tim is horrified and apologetic, but I'm struggling here. This woman violated my personal space, destroyed my hair, and acted like she was in the right. I want to go no contact with her, but Tim is stuck between me and his mom, and I feel like this is going to be a huge blow up in our marriage. Any advice? Because I'm honestly at a loss here. Well, P, personally, I agree with you. This thing is outrageous. Your mother-in-law absolutely out of line in a way that I would press charges. She broke into your house and cut your hair while you were asleep. And your husband is stuck between you two? He should be having your back. Now, this may be me jumping to conclusions, but if your husband is not outraged by this, then my guess is he's either a mommy's boy or he just generally doesn't have a spine, which is another issue that I also think you would need to tackle at some point. But the first one is your mother-in-law. And I think you pressing charges is also going to give you a big hint as to what you should do about that second point. And what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments section, and now let's check out the community comments. Xan3782 says, why was his first thought, maybe mom did it? Like, why would a normal person's mind go there? Did he let her in? I'm sorry, but if my spouse woke up with their hair butchered, none of my thoughts would be that it could be my mom unless I knew or she had done that before to someone else I was with. There is definitely more to that story, and if he isn't immediately on your side, sounds like you have a husband problem along with a mother-in-law problem. OKWin6261 says, this is assault. Please report her. Terrifying. And OP responds, you're right, it does feel like a form of assault and I've been seriously consider reporting her. It's not just about the hair, it's the violation of my personal space and the sense of safety in my own home. I'm still weighing the pros and cons of escalating things legally, but comments like yours are helping me see how serious this is. Thank you for validating how terrifying it really was. Louise de Pontulac says, if your husband does not realize that this is straight up crazy behavior and that you need to be protected from this lunatic, he needs to be an ex. And OP responds, I completely get where you're coming from and trust me, I've thought about this. Thankfully, my husband has been supportive so far. He's set boundaries with her and is backing me up. That said, I've made it clear to him that if he wavers or doesn't take my safety seriously, we'll have a much bigger problem. This kind of behavior can't be excused no matter who it's coming from. And Fancy Neckney Pants says, this time it was your hair, which in itself is a huge deal. Next time it could be injury. Your husband shouldn't be stuck between his mom and you. This woman is 100% to blame. You did nothing wrong. If she can't communicate things and takes this type of action, she can't be trusted. OP's edit. My husband and I will be going to my mother-in-law tomorrow to talk about the situation again. Hopefully everyone will be calmed down by then and I won't have to threaten legal action. Thank you for all the support and suggestions. I will keep them in mind. Alright, well, most of the community agrees that OP should press charges, that her husband is an issue, of course, and actually raising the questions about how he went straight to his mom is very suspicious. After the conversation we had with Diane this morning, I noticed my husband, Tim, was acting weird. At first I thought it was just guilt about standing up to his mom, but it felt like more than that. He's been avoiding eye contact and getting defensive when I bring up what happened. I couldn't take it anymore, so I sat him down and told him he needed to be 100% honest with me about everything. That's when he dropped the bombshell. Apparently, Diane didn't come up with the haircut idea on her own. Tim admitted that he knew about it ahead of time and even helped her. I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. He said he truly thought I was cheating on him with Kyle, my gay coworker, because Diane had convinced him that there was too much evidence to ignore. When she suggested cutting my hair as some kind of weird punishment, he didn't stop her. In fact, he let her into our house that night while I was sleeping. Tim said he didn't want to confront me directly because he wasn't ready for the truth. So instead, he let his mother do this insane thing to me, thinking it would force me to come clean. I honestly don't know how my husband got so convinced. I've always been upfront with him, and there was never any indication that he felt suspicious or uncomfortable before. I don't know if it's his mom planting these seeds of doubt or if he's just been more gullible than I realized, but it really feels like paranoia now that I'm looking at it from the outside. Anyway, when I didn't admit to cheating, he started to realize he might have been wrong, but by then, he didn't know how to tell me what he'd done. He kept saying, "I'm so sorry, I was just confused." But I honestly don't know how to process this. This wasn't just Diane acting like a lunatic, this was both of them, and my own husband betrayed me in one of the most humiliating ways possible. I packed a bag and I'm staying with a friend tonight, and while I figure out what to do, I don't know if I can ever trust Tim again after this. It's not just the haircut, it's the fact that he didn't talk to me, believed the worst about me without any proof, and actively participating in something so cruel and violating. As for Diane, she's officially dead to me. I've already told Tim that I don't want her in my life ever again, regardless of what happens between us. Right now, I'm torn. Part of me wants to file a police report on both of them for what they did, but I'm scared of how messy it will get. Another part of me just wants to cut ties and move on, but that feels like letting them off too easy. I don't know what my next step is, but I do know this. I deserve better than this. I wish I had seen the signs sooner. He's always such a mama's boy, and I honestly thought it was just a phase or something that wouldn't affect our relationship. Looking back, I see how much his mom's influences shaped him, and now I'm realizing just how unhealthy it really is. I never imagined it would come to this, but at this point, I don't know how things can go back to normal. Honestly, I'm thankful to be leaving him. I deserve peace and someone who values me, not someone who puts his mother above everything else. Thank you to everyone who has supported me through this. Your comments and advice have meant the world, and I'm truly grateful for the kindness and understanding. It's helping me find the strength to figure out what comes next. Well, OP, I understand that it must suck to figure out that your spouse is a spineless mommy's boy, but at least now you have all the information to make the decisions for what comes next. So here's wishing you the best in the future, OP. Thanks so much for sharing and take care. And now let's move on to the next post that also has an update. This post is from the subreddit Am I the A-hole, and it's by user naturalmountain641. Am I the a-hole for refusing to go on a family trip unless they disinvite my nephew's friend? I, 43 male, am really close to my family, consisting of my siblings, their spouses, their kids, and my parents. Every year we go on vacation this time of year for 2 weeks and come back right before Christmas. We are supposed to leave a week from today. I am the divorced single sole parent to my daughter, 15 female. She jokingly calls herself a nerd, she's weird, she's quirky, she likes anime and video games and Star Wars, the whole stereotypical nerd thing. She does get bullied at school, but since leaving middle school and growing up a little more, she started taking it better and mostly it stopped. This one boy, who I will call Jeff, 16 male, presumably, and is coincidentally my nephew's, who is also sort of an a-hole's best friend, is an absolute nightmare. I've talked to the school, we've had meetings with his parents, she's switched around classes extensively, but he still goes out of his way to pick on Emily. She has told me herself that she can deal with the name calling, but it doesn't stop there. He pulls her hair, rips her clothes, destroys her things. Like, this kid is a full-fledged nightmare. They even got into a fist fight that they were both suspended for last year because he stole her backpack and put it into a full toilet in the boys' bathroom. Anyway, when I was discussing plans with my sister, she brought up needing to buy Jeff a winter coat. When I realized he was going on the trip, I actually almost lost it. I told her admittedly, without thinking, that we weren't going, and she began begging me, talking about tradition and family and blah blah. I said no, I'll eat my portion of the cost, but we are not going. After a long conversation, I said I'll go if they disinvite Jeff. We are well off and are lucky to have grown up in a financially stable home with parents who are attentive and supportive, and for our kids to have done the same. Jeff was not that lucky. He lives in a really unstable environment, both financially and emotionally. This was apparent to me from the meetings with his parents, as his father did not care and his mother blamed my daughter for being evil. And these were multiple separate meetings. This is awful, and I'm sorry that Jeff or any child has to go through that, but I told my sister that my position still stands. The conversation went back and forth, mostly just her throwing excuses. Jeff has divorced parents, he grew up differently than us, maybe it's just a crush, ew, so on and so forth. When I reminded her of the fight, she said, I know, but Jeff needs this. She mentioned how he needed a break from his toxic home life, and I respect that, but why does that mean I have to put my daughter in a house with her tormentor for 2 weeks? I told her I wasn't changing my mind and went home. Now there is pure chaos. My family is split. My parents are begging me to go. I'm getting texts near constantly. My daughter told me she's not going if Jeff is going. She had a full-blown panic attack over it. Maybe I'm looking over validation, or maybe I really need a wake-up call and I'm just a selfish a-hole. No, OP, you're not selfish nor an a-hole. Just like you, I'm really sorry that Jeff or any child in a situation like his has to live or grow up in that environment. But your daughter comes first. You're being a parent, a responsible one. And your sister undermining what your daughter has gone through because Jeff needs a break, she's the a-hole here. Your daughter had a full-blown panic attack over just knowing that Jeff was going. That should be enough. If I was in your shoes, there is no negotiating here. I'm not going to force my daughter to spend 2 weeks of hell because my sister has a bleeding heart, not the a-hole. And what do you guys think? Let me know in the comment section, and now let's check out the community comments. Important Log 2 says, not the a-hole. Jeff's situation may be tragic, but your priority should always be your daughter. And it sounds like you've got your priorities straight. Stick to your stance. Jeff is not your responsibility. And asking you to sacrifice your daughter's mental well-being for a child who has repeatedly tormented her is downright cruel. I'm guessing he hasn't even apologized or showed remorse, and they expect you and your daughter to roll over for him just because he has it tough. Time for him to learn a tough lesson not to take his problems out on others. And OP responds, no real apology, no. They had to read each other apology letters for their suspension, but that's it. As I said, it's really sad that a child is struggling in the way Jeff is, but my kid doesn't need to pay for that. Gurn Fei says, absolutely do not go. Can't imagine putting my kid in that position for hours and hours at a time with a tormentor for 2 weeks. That would be emotionally and potentially physically neglectful as a parent. A lot of her strength and resilience comes from feeling protected by her parent and family. You do not want to stop her or her faith in you that you will always have your back. And Winter Parsley 3798 says, sincerely, F Jeff, F your sister, F the family that agrees with them. Lots of people have hard childhoods. The majority of my friends grew up in toxic households. My own mother had a heart attack and was put in a psych ward for a week before I was Jeff's age, while my dad was in Iraq. None of us ever bullied, harassed, or assaulted other kids. Not the a-hole. Keep your daughter's peace. And Dopey responds, you know it's funny, and I don't include this, but every stupid little point my sister had about why I should feel bad for Jeff, I had a solid rebuttal, and she hated that. My mother's daughter and I are divorced, and my ex isn't even around. My daughter gets verbally abused at school and is still one of the sweetest, kindest people you'll ever meet. It was just a bunch of poop excuses, frankly. I'm mildly appalled because the adults of my family have always been incredibly unsupportive, and I'm surprised that this was even a conversation on the table. Well, the community agrees that OP is not the a-hole and that he should keep standing up for his daughter. So now, let's move on to the update to see how the story ends. Hi everyone, I hope you're good. I have an update or a solution that I figured I'd share. Before I start, I want to say thank you for anyone who put in their 2 cents. I appreciate all the comments, though I got overwhelmed with attention very quickly. I'm sorry if any questions remain unanswered. There were a lot of comments. So, the night before last, my 3 siblings, their spouses, and my parents all gathered at my sister's house to talk this through. I, very immaturely, sort of walked in with a mild attitude. I knew I wasn't going to change my mind. I felt like this was a waste of time. But my daughter keeps expressing to me how badly she wants to go on the trip, so I went. It started off with my sister and my mom crying and just asking me to go, but that got shut down really fast by pretty much everyone else. My sister expressed that she just felt so bad for Jeff. Again, he's got a tough financial situation with a mother who treats him like a baby and a father that doesn't care. She mentioned that Jeff and Emily have been polite to each other in the presence of family and figured they would getting over their issues. Regardless, she was trying to convince me and my entire family to allow Jeff to come. I really do get it, and I am a person who can experience empathy, sometimes to a fault, but for the millionth time, my empathy towards Jeff and his situation does not overpower my need to protect my daughter. As her only parent, it is literally my duty to make sure she is safe, and this is not safe. Thanks to a comment, I did say, my daughter does not feel safe around Jeff, to which my brother-in-law, the sister in question's husband, replied, well, that settles it. The only adult who wanted Jeff to go was my sister. The only people who wanted me to compromise and go and ignore Jeff were my mother and sister-in-law. Everyone else was adamant that Jeff did not go. No one knew he was invited, and it wasn't until I sent in the group chat that I would not be attending because of Jeff's presence that anyone, including my sister's husband, knew Jeff was going. My father, who is actually a therapist, has been ridiculously supportive through this whole thing. He explained his reasonings for not wanting Jeff there besides the obvious. Most notably, and as many others, including myself, have pointed out, he started bringing up the subject of sexual assault. My nephew mentioned to him that Jeff does like Emily, and if his mindset is as dysfunctional as we are led to believe, he's not currently capable of expressing that to Emily in a healthy way, which could lead to him attempting to assault her. My sister tried to "I told you so" me about the crush, but I literally laughed at her. I really honestly don't care if he has a crush on my daughter. He's so awful to her. She takes it like a champ. She holds her head up high, and I'm so proud of her for that. But that doesn't change the fact that Jeff has been so sincerely awful to her that it makes me sick. Anyway, it was ultimately decided that Jeff was not going. Thanks to another comment I saw, I did tell her that she will be doing a great thing by trying to help this boy, but her niece came before him in this situation. I brought up that Jeff might retaliate against Emily for being disinvited, so we did come up with a plan, sort of. My nephew had to tell him at school the next day that Jeff was no longer invited because he didn't want him and Emily to get into a fight. I thought that was a dumb plan, I'm not going to lie, but as long as the blame was off of Emily, I didn't care. We left for the night and both Emily and I hugged my sister. She apologized. It was generally okay. I'm still frustrated with her for trying to be this boy's savior at the risk of my daughter. And we have yet to have that conversation, but I'm sure it will come with time. My mother told Emily that she was sorry for seemingly wanting to subject her to Jeff, and she didn't mean to come off that way. She simply wanted us to come. I am still frustrated with my mom, but again, a conversation to come with time. I told my daughter not to get her hopes up because part of me still didn't believe that Jeff was really not going to go, but we proceeded with cautious optimism. In the meantime, I spoke with my lawyer friend who did advise me not to go on the trip if Jeff was going and not to speak to him or his parents directly. No problem there. I had resigned to not going and I had no interest in talking to anyone. Additionally, my sister's husband and I had a long talk about how he was really disappointed in her for this. That's not my business, but I was happy that he was still as fiercely protective of my daughter as I always thought he was. I have to give my nephew props because he took the news well, although he was disappointed. He understands that what Jeff does is wrong, but I'm still not really sure why he puts up with it besides that he's a teenager who doesn't want to lose a friend. So this leads us to last night. Emily shows me a message from my nephew that just says, "So, Jeff backed out, LMAO." And that's it. Get this, Jeff didn't know that Emily was going. My nephew went to tell him what was up and he got as far as saying Emily is going to be there before Jeff backed out. I spoke to my nephew who said Jeff just got weird and said he couldn't go, and they left it at that. Jeff seemed disappointed and I do feel sorry for him, but again, my daughter comes first to me. My brother-in-law only sent me laughing emojis. Initially, I was still not sure if I'd go because a lot of comments suggested I should not go on principle. With that being said, my daughter said she'd rather go on this trip even after I tried to suggest we do something else. So now we're going. Yay! That's really it. Sorry it's so long and I wish it was more exciting, but it is not. I tried to put emphasis on the conversation with my family because that was the important part. But even then, we were just standing around my sister's kitchen talking. No big confrontation or anything. Regardless, have a good day and a happy holiday season. Thank you for reading and for all the advice. I do appreciate it. Well, OP, it doesn't have to be overly dramatic to be a good and happy ending. So here's wishing you and your family have a nice time during your vacation. Take care, OP, and thanks for sharing. And that's it for today's video. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch it. Now, if you've gotten to this point in the video, I assume that you like these stories that I'm reading out. So here are a couple more that you might enjoy. And if you don't have any time to watch another story right now, save it for later. And also, don't forget to hit that subscribe button.